Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I'm Matt Pierce. We're going to dive into an episode that I want to take a moment to give you some context. This episode was originally recorded back in 2023 when generative AI was still relatively new and an exciting frontier. Of course, it still is. At the time, it was just starting to become a mainstream tool for creativity and productivity and problem solving. Now we fast forward to today, and wow, what a difference a couple years can make. The landscape of AI has evolved at lightning speed. There's new tools and features that are being released almost daily, and AI now seamlessly feels integrated into so many parts of our personal and professional lives. From helping us write, design, and edit to transforming industries like healthcare, education, and entertainment. It's clear we've only scratched the surface of what's possible. That said, I want to acknowledge that some examples in this video may feel a little outdated or reflect the tools and trends of 2023. But here's the thing. The core message that Josh Cavalier is going to share with us about how to embrace AI, overcome hesitation, and use it to amplify our own strengths still holds true. In fact, I'd argue it even may be more relevant today. As you listen, I encourage you to think about how your own relationship with AI has changed since then. What tools have you started using? What impact has it had on your work? And if you haven't yet taken the leap, let this episode be your invitation to get started. All right, that's enough for me for now. So let's jump into this episode, and I hope you enjoy this look back at how it began with Josh Cavalier. Josh Cavalier is an experienced and passionate learning and development professional with over 25 years of experience in the field. He's an expert in creating instructional videos and is dedicated to sharing his extensive knowledge with others. He has a proven track record of delivering successful workshops for some of the world's leading companies, including Microsoft, Lockheed Martin, Marriott, Lowe's, and Pfizer. He's also a regular speaker at industry conferences and is well-respected in the learning and development community. Josh's experience, expertise, and passion make him a valuable resource for anyone looking to improve their skills and knowledge in the field of instructional design and video creation, and has become my go-to person to talk to you about AI and how I can be using it better and more, smarter, if you will. So please help me welcome back to the Visual Lounge, Josh Cavalier. Hey,
Thanks,
Josh.
Matt. That was an awesome intro. I appreciate it.
Well, you bet. Look, Josh, you've been on the show. We're excited to talk to you. I want to get to the AI stuff, but it's been a while since we've had you on solo, so I want to ask a couple of the kind of our starter questions just to reintroduce you to our audience. So remind us, Josh, how did you get started using, actually, I'm going to change this a little bit because I think you've answered this one. So how are you currently in your workplace, in your work that you do, using video?
Yeah. So as far as, video, the way that video shows up, it's really about knowledge transfer and behavior change. And that's various topics. So it goes all aspects of the learning journey, from building awareness around, important topics, to then going into knowledge transfer and then even performance support. So video is used throughout that whole entire experience.
Yeah, awesome. So if you look at obviously there's a lot of reasons you could be using video, a lot of purposes, but kind of generally, how do you know if your video is successful? Like what kind of indicators are you looking for from a video?
Yeah. So, there's a couple different, you can go straight to the analytics, which is going to give you the information as far as view count and things like that. But we all know that it comes down to, are you moving the needle in regards to what your objectives were with the video in the first place, especially from a learning standpoint. So after consumption, do you see behavior change? Do you see any changes in regards to performance out there in the field? And again, that analytics comes back into play even with that. And then you can just go to the viewers themselves and say, hey, what did you think about that series of videos on, pick a topic and get feedback that way. So yeah, there's multiple ways that you can go and check whether something was successful or not.
Yeah, I love that. Make sure it's doing the thing you wanted it to actually do, right?
Right.
Like follow up on that. Did it help us achieve the thing? And it's probably not what the video did itself. It's what the people who consumed the content were able to do. So
Exactly.
All right, last one before we'll dive into AI properly here is, we always like to ask people for a tip. Josh, you are a master. You've done so many videos. It's always great to talk with you. What's an I know you've got lots of tips, but what's one maybe that you don't share often or think is like, maybe people know that, and so you don't get to, in terms of using video or maybe creating video. What's something that you would like to share?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to it. You always got to go ahead and make your first video or just hit the record button. And I think even to this day, there are many content creators that are out there that may be apprehensive about making their first video. With the topic that we're talking about today, it is going to be even easier to create that first video, even if you're not on camera. That headless video creation is extremely popular, and I think there's some benefits to starting off in that direction or using other tools to help make a really good, impactful video without yourself on camera. Maybe you kind of work your way on camera after a little bit, after you get comfortable. But again, I think it's just starting, just get going with the whole entire process.
Yeah, I love that. Big fan of making that first video. Now, I've made my first video. I'm gonna be honest, Josh. I've made my first video many, many, many times. Like it's like sometimes I just get back to it, like, okay, this is like my first video. So, great advice. Now, I want to start really high level here because AI is a huge topic. Obviously there's lots of things in the news about AI. There's lots of different places we can talk about. Like you can go to do AI things. But in terms of making video creation, and I'm not even saying like making the video, right? Like it's not generating the video, but like all
Correct.
the steps along the video. What are some of the things you find that AI is good at helping to maybe speed up the process or make the process easier? What pieces and steps of video creation are you looking at?
There's a lot there. So, I mean, we might as well go ahead and start from idea generation. And I have been using ChatGPT for helping me like be a partner in the creation process to where I have an idea as far as a script and how it's going to show up. I'll go in, key in a few prompts, get a script back, look at it, make a few more prompts, a few more adjustments, and then once I have a script there that's maybe 80 or 90%, go in, sweep it, make those text changes, and then have at it, throw it into production. And so that's only just one aspect though, because I've gone in and created animations. And if you pop up on my YouTube channel, you can actually see some of those animations to where that script then goes into an AI audio tool and we generate the audio. And then that audio then goes into a tool like Adobe Character Animator to quickly rig or animate the character. And then it's done. A process that used to take me a day may take 20 minutes now, which is, it's fascinating to see that kind of progress.
Okay, so we've got scripts, we've got this audio generation, we've got, I'm assuming like the animations are actually AI is helping to build the animation, so it's probably fast. Anything else that you're using AI for, or that I guess the audience could start thinking about using AI to help them in this process as they think about the end
Mhm.
video?
Yeah, so like in the storyboarding process, I have been using Midjourney to make thumbnails as far as like a shot, the way that the shot is in regards to the camera, whether it's eye level or bird's eye view or whatever angle it is, and just uploading existing location shots
Mm-hmm.
into Midjourney to then go in and make a variation of that and put those outputs into the storyboard. That seems to be like the most I've been doing with it. But some of the other tools that I've been seeing that are just really fascinating, and there's a lot because there's different aspects of video production, and AI is touching all of those. One of the more popular ones that I'm seeing are edits and very specific edits, like what we're doing right now is a podcast. You're switching back before between me speaking and then you speak and the camera goes back and forth, and I don't know if you're doing that manually or if it's automated, but eventually an edit needs to occur with a multicam shot. And there are amazing products on the marketplace now that are all AI driven that analyze the footage, make the cuts automatically, and then those cuts are you can import them into your favorite editing tool. And that is fascinating to watch. What would take somebody a half day takes 10 minutes to do.
Oh, wow. So I love this that way we can, and it's like augmenting our capability, right? To
Yeah,
do these things. I mean, one that we all know from kind of a writing standpoint, one of the worst things you can get stuck with is a blank page. It's hard to
correct.
overcome. Same with I would imagine, like even storyboards. It's like, oh gosh, it feels like a lot of work. It's a heavy lift. Um, what I'm curious about though, Josh, is that I think some people have not experienced, say, I know you mentioned chat gpt, so we'll use that as an
Right.
example because it is fairly easy to get into. It's fairly popular. I think some people have experienced, they've gone in there though, for those that have used it, and they've just seen kind of these weird mixed results. um
Yeah.
and so I'm curious that, like, if let's say let's take the scripting example because I think it's very practical. I think it could help anybody. How do I make sure I'm gonna get good results? Because I mean, I feel like in my experience, I've had a couple things that's like, wow, that was really impressive, and I've had some that's like hot garbage came out, and I don't know if it was what I did or if it's Chat GPT. Like,
Right.
help us figure that process out a little bit.
Yeah. One tip just to give everyone out there some guidance in around using generative AI out of the gate, if you're brand new to it, is you really need to understand what's happening under the hood. And I'm not talking about learning the math formulas or how a transformer works or in regards to images, diffusion algorithms, but you really need to understand how your input is going to influence the output of the AI. And how does that show up? For instance, with large language models, a new user going in there may have the impression that ChatGPT or Bard or one of these other large language models is grabbing a block of text and doing something with it and then kicking it back, when that's not the case at all. It's a probability engine, and the words that you put into the prompt will return, based upon probability, a series or string of text. So if you enter the proper words in, odds are you're going to get some good content back. And of course, the version of ChatGPT that you use and or whatever large language model is also going to have an influence there in regards to things like hallucinations, whether it's just making things up or if you, and let's take for instance a video script, and I want a character to be in a certain voice. So if I start using descriptive terms like witty, funny, sarcastic, terms like that, odds are the dialogue that's going to come back will be in that range, especially with GPT-4. Now, one of the things you can do that many chat gpt users don't know is because OpenAI has ingested the corpus of Twitter into its large language model, you can reference an at name from Twitter, someone who you follow or somebody's voice on Twitter, and that script or that person's voice will be replicated based upon that personality on Twitter, which is fascinating and fun to play with. But again, the idea is that I'm very specific about what I'm looking for in regards to the output, and I'm consistent in the way that I describe it within my prompt. That's going to go ahead and put some guardrails up and give you better returns in regards to storyboarding, to voice, to action sequences, or whatever you're trying to put together in regards to the script. You'll see that having of these strategies around prompts, they pay huge dividends and they save you plenty of time and get you to a point where you can actually begin iterating and going through a prompt sequence to add refinement to what you really created. And the key is that initial prompt. If you can get a really good initial prompt and get 60 to 70% there, you know that you are getting back a range of words for probability that you then can continue to modify. We're putting things into focus at that point. So I have focus with ChatGPT. I'm getting somewhat of a good result, but those range of words I can continue to mold with additional prompts to eventually get to where I need to be 80 or 90%.
Okay. I'm super fascinated because I've been using Chat GPT wrong, I think. so
Okay.
so okay, so if I'm this user, let's say I've got a script and it's
Yeah,
nothing proprietary, because I think that probably
sure.
introduces a whole another set of things. Like I've got all these terms that it probably doesn't know or doesn't know what I'm talking about. But let's say
Yep.
we're going to be talking about writing a script about how to make a video tutorial. Something that I think you and I
Yeah.
can talk about a lot. Um, when you start, so you're gonna get pretty. It sounds like you're gonna get pretty specific, kind of like I want it to be lighthearted, or I want it to be funny, or whatever. You're gonna give
Sure.
that voice some definition. Are you usually saying like to get it started, or do you want it to like go gangbusters and try to write the whole thing from that first prompt, or do you want it to kind of take it in chunks? What's is there a best way? Maybe it doesn't matter.
I don't think it matters.
Okay.
I think really trying to make sure that you're on the right track. Well, it depends upon how long of a script you want, because depending upon the model that you use, whether it be 3.5 or 4, there is a token limit. And a token is 0.75 words. And so, once you start running the numbers and you realize, hey, I only have 3,700 or 3,800 words that I can actually get within this conversation or within an output from ChatGPT. Now, GPT-4 goes up to 32,000 tokens, and that you can get longer responses. But again, I think it's a matter of finding that prompt that is going to give you, whether it's a short script or a portion of a script, because once you lock that in, Matt, from there, you're golden, because you can continue the conversation or just type in the word continue in the prompt and it will maintain the same voice and start generating the additional part of the script.
Okay. So I love this, and I'm assuming when you're starting to put in prompts, and you kind of figure out that voice. I mean, how much of scripting are you actually asking it to do? Are you having it formatted in the script? Are you asking it to actually go through it, or like I guess
Yeah,
give me some ideas, because I could
sure.
imagine someone's coming through here and saying, well, Josh, I don't necessarily want to hand over all the script making, because maybe it doesn't know the process, maybe it doesn't understand this or that, or maybe I'm just worried about that. Or I could see on the other hand is like, I don't have to do that work. If it can give me step by step how to get me through this tutorial video, cool. Like that saves me time. I can focus on the other things that maybe are more important.
Yeah. So it's really fascinating, because when you have a large language model that has 175 billion parameters, there are word associations within that model. And so when we go in and we build our first prompt, if you are defining the structure of the script, and let's take an educational video.
Mhm.
So, we have hook, we have prime, we have content, then we have reflection, and then we have call to action. That's a basic structure for most videos. Actually, for YouTube, that's a very popular one. In our first prompt, if we go in and ask it to create a script, we can then define that structure. We could say hook is 8 seconds that will be exciting, that gets the viewer's attention. And then prime is go and read the content and provide a summary as far as what's going to be covered. And then you actually have the content structure, and then you have the reflection and so on. If you define that in the first prompt, especially in GPT-4, based upon the words that you use to describe that format, odds are you're going to get back a pretty good script, as opposed to going in and not defining that. You are then widening the probability engine and the types of words that are coming back. So there's a difference between what I call a free form prompt, which is just typing in a few sentences with definitions of what you're looking for, versus a structured prompt that is much more strategic in regards to the type of output that you're getting back. And nowadays, well, you know what, it's typically a balance. It depends upon what I'm trying to do. Sometimes I'll mess around with some free form to see if I'm in the right range in regards to the output types, and if I know I'm in the range, then I'll create a structured prompt based upon some of the findings that I have, to get again, putting guardrails on it, a more detailed output.
So what I'm hearing, and I think this is the interesting piece, is that while you can play, you can kind of put in whatever, but it is truly kind of the old motto of garbage in, garbage out, right? Like if I just put some stuff in, the likelihood that it's going to nail what I want is probably pretty low. But if I take some time to think about what it is, what I need, I'm still doing some design work here. the
Correct.
the likelihood and the model. I mean, Chat GPT 3 or 3.5 versus 4 is going to probably give me some different outcomes. Sounds like but it's still, there's this human work that has to be done that until I guess I could ask Chat GPT to give me the prompts, but that maybe not, it's going to work, right?
Oh, sure, you can do that too. If you take Matt, if you take for instance the one of the popular starting phrases of ChatGPT and just in the range of script writing is act as a fill in
Mm.
the blank comedy writer, a movie producer. I'm an art director, whatever role that you want. So you got to think for a moment. Well, why am I doing that? Why am I saying act like a movie producer or act like a comedy writer? Well, if we take those two words, comedy writer, and they're ingested into the transformer, ChatGPT is going in and again in its corpus of text, 175 billion parameters, saying, okay, comedy and writer, what are all of the words or probability of words sequences that are going to come up related to both of those words? And that's it. You're now like tuning ChatGPT to give you back jokes or things that have occurred in other types of script or probabilities of those adjacent words to come back. And so that little bit of tuning right there, act as a, is extremely helpful because again, you are giving the model guidance in regards to the outputs.
Yeah. Wow. That alone is great advice, right? So you can start honing in on your scripts. Now, Josh, we've talked a lot about scripts, and it's obviously an aspect, right? So and I think in my experience, I will be honest, I played with Chat GPT. I played with, is it Doll E? I think is how you
Yeah.
say it,
Image
right?
rendering.
A little bit. It's been a while since I've gone in. There's probably changed a lot since it's been a few months. But like, obviously, there's so many other things you can do in these different kind of engines, if you will. You talked about using storyboards. Tell me a little bit. Like, if I'm new to this, how do I even know what should I be looking at? There's ChatGPT seems like an obvious one. What else
Yeah.
is there?
I don't think it's as much as looking at the tools, Matt, than as looking at yourself and what you're good at. Like, what is your craft and what do you create day in and day out? What are your workflows? I think you need to. Here's the thing. There is so many tools on the marketplace right now. I know there's over like 1,200 creation tools that just happen to crop up in the last 4 months, which for anyone, including myself, it's extremely difficult to read what's happening in the marketplace, what tools to try. I don't have enough time to do that. But what I do know is I have been in and around educational video my whole career. I do know a little bit about it, and I know how it should show up. And when I talk to individuals that are trying to figure out AI for the first time, I always mention like you have to look inside yourself and what is your superpower? Like what are you really really good at? So when you look at a creation that you're good at, you know whether it is going to work or not for that audience. Start there. Whether you are an instructional designer creating storyboards or multiple choice questions or a learning needs analysis, or you're a video producer and you're producing commercials or movies, anything like that. What are you really good at? And then what is your work? What are your workflows? Like, how do you get started? What's the creative process? What's the feedback process? Take a look at that and then start with AI, right? So I'm going to go ahead and start injecting ChatGPT into my workflow at this point. Maybe I need learning objectives. Maybe I need evidence based learning objectives. And then from those learning objectives, maybe I can go in and create an initial script or a rough draft, or maybe an e learning storyboard based upon the identified need for the audience. And that's how you start. That's just text. What about, of course, we're talking about video. Same thing with video. Well, I know that I'm a producer and I'm going to be doing this podcast, and we have two cameras, and I'm going to go back and forth during the shoot, and I need to do an edit. Well, what AI tools are out there that can help with that edit? There's many. There are many tools that can go ahead and do an automatic edit now within your favorite editing, video editing tools. And to me, I think that is the most approachable way of getting into AI is how can it multiply what I do? How can it enhance what I really, really know and get good at? And if you are just starting out in your career and maybe you're not good at video or you're not good at writing scripts, maybe go to a tool like ChatGPT and ask it, what do I need to do to be proficient in these areas? And maybe you can help me out and have a dialogue with ChatGPT as far as like giving you, Socratic guidance on what to do. And it's probably going to ask you questions about what are you interested in, and what aspects of video creation do you want, and you can go off in that direction. So yeah, it's already internalized. You already have what you need to do in your inside, and then use that as a compass as far as the types of AI that you get involved with.
Well, I think it's interesting. One of the things that this conversation is kind of leading in my mind is that we're talking about generative AI, right? Like the chat GPTs, it's creating kind of something from nothing, or the prompts that we're giving it. But one of the things that I want people to be aware of out there that are listening to the podcast is that there's also AI that's not necessarily the generative. That's, there's this weird world. It's, some people call AI, some people call it machine learning, things that are happening in the background. And, recently at TechSmith, Josh, you might be interested in this, had a conversation with some of our developers and said, hey, well, what is the story for Camtasia? What is the story for Snagit and Audio? And it's like, it's not maybe that at the point of generative AI, but it's interesting that AI is kind of being infused into all these things, like you said, from a workflow perspective. So it's not, I think there's some hesitation like, oh, well, AI, is it going to take my job? Is it not going to take my job? Well, AI is already making tasks simpler, right? Like
Correct.
if anyone listening to this that has downloaded or tried Camtasia 2023, it's got a new feature. It's in beta, the background removal. It's using machine learning to start to do that. And I think,
Correct.
so I think there's a kind of this cool thing to think about is that like, because so many people are nervous or worried, or, I've heard how many times I've heard, I'm excited about our new chat GPT overlords who are going to, come and take over whatever. But I think it's this interesting place that you're saying is like, figure out what works for you. What do you know? Where can you go? But I do want to address this a little bit, Josh, because I think, how can we not? It's early days. How there's people that have ethical concerns or questions about what's chat GPT or AI in general going to do.
Right.
What are the worries about, like, am I gonna, is it going to replace the things that I do? Because if I'm not particularly, maybe my skill set is such that I'm doing a lot of kind of things that AI will be able to be good at. What do I do then? And so I guess, how would you address that for anyone who's maybe got the concerns or a little bit nervous about where this is all headed?
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts on that. One, just in regards to content creation, it's going to get compressed for sure. Now, how it shows up, yeah, I don't know, because there's that aspect of creativity, of human creativity, that is critical in everything that we do. And do we get to a point where the AI is creative enough to outcreate us? I don't know. I'm not concerned of that at this point. But what I am concerned about is that you have a lot of individuals who create content and they're really good at one certain aspect of that, and then AI may come in and completely automate that part. But on the flip side, because you got to look at every con, there's a pro. So on the flip side is I think of individuals who, in the space of L&D, they're really good at instructional design. And throughout the years, they were forced to generate e-learning content. They were forced to generate videos just because of that's the way that the job evolved. They now were from an instructional designer. Now they're a learning experience designer. And they had all of these things thrust upon them as far as requirements of their job. And maybe they weren't just all excited about it, or it was difficult for them to learn that craft and that wasn't in their flywheel. Well, guess what? Now they're going to be empowered. Think about all of the great ideas that people have about how learning shows up with video or with any kind of interactivity, e-learning. Now, if there's an automation part to it, we have so many creative people that just they didn't have those skills, but
Hmm.
now they can execute. They can put together a whole entire learning journey and see how it works in their workplace or wherever. And there's more orchestration that happens as opposed to the production. And sometimes that production work, man, it's a grind. Like, oh, I got to knock out 60 videos for this course on compliance. Like, woohoo. I mean, like, that I am not excited about that, but I'm excited if AI can go ahead and knock it out in 5 days and it reduces my time by 80%. Let's do that. And I think that's where it's going to show up. I think we have to keep in mind that this is not a panacea, that it's not going to be perfect. And somebody has to police the police. If the AI is automatically creating the content, are we just going to say it's perfect out of the gate? I don't think so. Because I still have to reboot my computer and the driver on my webcam will go out and I got to there are still issues. And same thing is going to happen with AI. So even if content creation gets compressed, we still have to have individuals that need to go ahead and orchestrate and put together performance support plans and making sure they understand how the business is functioning and what the deficiencies are and where we need improvement, either through knowledge, skills, or behavior. And then on the back end, are we moving the needle? Like, what are the analytics? Are we able to go in and with this media that we produce, even if it's a whole bunch of videos, what happened to them? Do we need to make adjustments? Do we need to tweak and modify our prompts or the AI generation so that the next round that goes out to frontline sales, wherever the audience is, it's going to hit the mark? We still need to have individuals who understand learning and understand their craft to orchestrate all of this AI generation that's going to happen.
Yeah. One thing I was thinking of as you said, police to police, I was playing with ChatGPT this morning and I was, going through some stuff and I got it to a point where I felt it was doing a pretty good job, but then I needed a word and I needed a specific word because I was working on some stuff for an event we got coming up called Level Up. And I asked it to give me some words that start with the letter M because I was doing like an alliteration thing that mean this. And it's like, okay, I'll give you 10 things that start with M. One of them started with an N. And I'm like, hey, why'd you give me a word that started with an N? It's like,
Yeah,
oh, it apologizes. And it's like, I'll give you a new list. And then it gave me a list that had two words that did not start with M. I mean, so
right,
I think that's such a fair point, right? Like we've got to be looking at, is it really, there's still false positives. There's still things that's coming back of saying like, oh, it's this when you've got to police it. So I think that's a fair point. And I think you're right. Like the potential here to free us up, right? To do the things that we're really good at or
correct.
to do new things, whether it's learning or if you're a marketer, like you still got this thing. There's work that we have to look at and say like, yep, there's things that we still are going to do. Now, will that, who knows what will happen in the future? I can't predict the future. It feels we're very early days and it's exciting. Yeah, of course it's scary, right? It's scary to turn things over. It's scary to but that's true of anything. When I
Correct.
change jobs, that's like, oh, I got to let that thing go that I owned. I got to let it go. So that's difficult.
Right.
Now,
I can tell you real quick
yeah.
that this came up on LinkedIn, and somebody pointed out I had a comment like 6 years ago about how AI was going to show up with video, and I can tell you it's not anywhere near where I thought it was going to be.
Mm.
And the way I thought it was going to show up was, we have these massive repositories of video, and I thought AI was going to go in and analyze every single frame, write metadata about the context and what's in those frames, and then based upon the needs of the viewer, reconstitute clips automatically with background music and sound effects and all that to make a completely unique video-based experience for whatever performance or entertainment or anything like that. I thought that's like how it was going to work. I didn't realize, it was going to be like um, Mid-Journey and auto-generated and Caber and some of these other tools that are like doing 6-second clips that are completely auto-generated. I really thought it was all going to be human-based creation, and then AI was going to assist us with creating experiences around human-created video as opposed to auto-generated video. And so I'm still like, I still believe that there's going to be plenty of room for the orchestration of human created video that then gets amplified or extended out there in all kinds of different ways through AI. I think there's a lot of runway with that. And I don't know how exactly that shows up, but I just thought it was going to be different. It still may be out there. And I think one of the other um, things that may hamper or just kind of like slow things down is just computing power
Mhm.
for video. And when you do that at scale, it is not cheap. And so it's going to be a long time and a huge build out of computing power to have AI video at scale. And I think I mean, well, you think about it. Let's go back to social media. Twitter, right? It was limited number of characters. And so here we are again with AI, and it's like, oh, GPT-4, you can only have 25 prompts every 3 hours, right? There's a scaling issue that's at play. And when we talk about advanced forms of media, it is going to take a long time to have that work to where probably much of the AI is going to show up on your desktop, or there's going to be some kind of um, like these little tools that will help you do these edits or do color balance or some little aspect of the edit, and then you bring it back in, or it's a plug-in to the existing tools. I think that's going to be with us for a long time. But to actually just go in and through generative AI say, hey, I need a 30-second clip of a multi-shot food, let's make a recipe kind of a shot, and have it all cohesive as storytelling, like really good storytelling. I think it's going to be a ways out. Now, I have seen where you can import a script in certain online AI applications, and they give you all kinds of random clips that are in like B-roll. It just doesn't work. I mean, it kind of works, but you and I understand what it takes to make a really, really good cohesive video with shot sequences and that whole storytelling. I mean, the story's there, but it falls flat. And so I think in regards to video, there is a long runway here. Like, I don't think our jobs are going to go away. I think they're going to be amplified for a long time. But maybe you need to check back in with me in 5 years and see where we're at.
Well, you can count on that, but
Yeah,
and I would just add to that. I think Josh, that you're probably right, but I think what we'll see is that speeding up of the tasks, right? Like you mentioned, color balancing. That's something that there will be a tool that will help you do those individual tasks, right? Like make it faster, make it easier, make it better, but maybe not replace the whole sequence. At least for now. I mean, 10,
right.
20, 30 years, who knows? Because I mean, you look at just how computing power has changed and all those things. Obviously, there's a huge amount of opportunity and growth and a lot of energy being put into it. But I think the first step is like, make us faster, get us better, get past the blank page, get past the kind of the what am I going to
Yeah.
show to illustrate what I want to see. And I think that'll be it's exciting. It's exciting to see where we're headed here.
There's going to be a lot of magic. And I remember, because I've been doing this for a long time, it is so much fun and I was waiting for it, Matt. I was like, I need something exciting. Like there was like 4 or 5 years where it was just like, is this it? Is there going to be nothing else? And I can remember like you see things like Adobe Photoshop content aware fill. You're like, oh my gosh, that is magic. How is it doing that? And we're in a wonderful time because there are going to be, weeks where you're having that conversation in your head, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what it's doing. That's going to save me X amount of time, or it's going to up my creativity. Um, And when I think about it in that aspect, that's where the fear subsides. I think that we are going to get into this period of immense amount of creativity, immense amount of production. And because of that, and because of the numerous cycles that you can put out there as far as content, it's just going to benefit our viewers and our audience in the long run.
Yeah. Well, Josh, this has been a fantastic conversation. Probably one of, I think probably we'll have to do this again in 6 months to a year and really
Right.
dig in, along with
Right.
maybe some other AI conversations that will come up. But I do want to make sure that we spend some time, we'll have a little bit lighted heart conversation. So,
Sure.
Josh, let's go into our speed round.
Okay.
All right. If you're new to the podcast, speed round is quick questions with quick answers. Josh, no need to make them one-word answers. Mark Lassoff did that one time to me, and it was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with one-word answers. So, but we do this in a very fun way because we are nerds here on the Visual Lounge, and I'm going to roll a 12-sided die, the least used die in Dungeons and Dragons for anyone who's paying attention.
Yeah.
And so here we go. The first roll is an 8. So let's go ahead and bring up that nice little 8 graphic there because, that's what we do here.
Rolling for initiative.
That's right, Josh. So if you had, this is fun. I almost thought we should do this. I almost thought we should bring up an AI and ask it the question put it in your voice, but we won't have time for that. But so this one's gonna be really would have been perfect for it. If you had to pick an image that represents you, what would it be? You can pick any image to represent you. What would you pick?
There's this image of my sister and I, when we were kids, and we're just sitting on the front porch of, I believe, my grandmother's house. And I was probably 4 and she was 3. And I was just hugging on her. And we were just hanging out. And we had like such joy in our faces. And I think that like best represents me, because I think my whole entire career, I've always cared for people. And I think that's the reason why I enjoy doing education, because it's more than just like a knowledge transfer or transactional kind of thing. Is I've always had a deep care and commitment towards people and making sure that they grow. And I am just blessed that there are avenues like this where I could go ahead and share ideas. But yeah, that is the image that immediately popped in my head.
Well, I love that because I thought you were going to say like a panda with like fiery wings, no.
No.
No, it's awesome. So, okay.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, here we go. We're going to bring up the dice cam again. Get rid of the 8. Let's roll again. Number 11. All right. Okay. This one's a little bit more practical. So get a little bit more practical. What's one resource that you think everyone should know about? Something that you feel like, gosh, it's just so valuable out there. Could be related to AI, could be something else. What would you point people to?
Yeah, there is one website that I have been looking at, and it's called futuretools.io. And it keeps track of all of the AI tools that are coming on the marketplace, and you're able to sort through by function, like video or audio, or any other type of media production. And that has helped me out tremendously in like maintaining the keeping the noise down and being able to kind of sort through and pick out like what would be a good tool to evaluate. So it's futuretools.io.
Awesome. Love it. So let's do one more question here, Josh. The dice are rolling. Ooh, that's a 9. You can tell because the line is underneath.
Line under it. That's right.
Got it.
Take me way back.
That's right. So, okay, we obviously had a lot of things we talked about. There's a lot of things that we could talk about, but what's one question you wish I would have asked you?
Well, since we're AI and video, maybe some of the other tools that are out there in regards to audio or some of the other aspects of production. It's such a deep topic that you really could have asked me all kinds of different questions about audio or even within video editing tools. So yeah, maybe the audio one. That would have been fun to explore.
Okay, so Josh, because you brought it up, let's high level 1,000 foot, 10,000 foot view, right? Like, what would you have explored with us in that audio? Because audio is, I mean, we know,
Yeah.
right? Audio is such a critical piece. Like, what kind of things should we be looking for from an AI perspective to do with our audio? Because I mean, I
Right.
know some things, but I'm curious what you're going to say.
So, what's fascinating is that text to audio has been around for quite some time. And one of the issues is it just sounds robotic, and it's
Mm-hmm.
always sound robotic except for this year. So, again, it's another one of those things like, oh my gosh, it's magic. And there's one particular platform, I'm just going to mention it just because I use it. It's called 11 Labs. And that particular platform is really good at enunciation and pausing and very human like. 95% is extremely good. As a matter of fact, the character that I use up on my YouTube channel, Chad GPT, he uses exclusively a voice from uh, 11 Labs. And it's really funny because it sounds like, if you're familiar with, um, oh my gosh, and I'm blanking out here, the Christmas movie where it's the train and
Oh, Polar Express.
Oh, Express, yes. So thank you so much. The one character in Polar Express is the really pain in the behind character, right?
Yes.
That voice, kind of annoying. Well, 11 Labs actually has a voice like that that's kind of sarcastic, and it's perfect. So when I write my Chat GPT scripts, it's a very sarcastic, witty script, and it goes along awesome with that particular AI voice and just flows right into production. So kind of cool.
Awesome. Well, I love it. And yeah, I've noticed there's a ways to go. So I've not seen that particular tool sets, but it'll be exciting to see what happens. And I think as we talked before recording, obviously they're getting better at cloning our own voices and things like that, which scary,
Yeah.
that there's some real world scary implications, but also
Yeah.
some really cool things.
I'm currently training my voice currently. So
Awesome.
who knows?
Awesome.
You never know when it may show up.
It'll be great. We'll use
Yeah.
that. I'll borrow your AI voice to do some voiceover
Yeah,
for the show.
perfect. Wow. You can knock these out.
So Josh, I appreciate you being on the show. Of course, as always, we like to allow people to, where if people want to learn more about AI, I know you're doing some stuff teaching people about this. Where should they look and where should they find your stuff?
Sure. I mean, I have a YouTube channel. You can just do youtube.com/@JoshCav, or just check out my website, joshcavalier.com. Those are the two good places to check out.
Awesome. And I do know, because I follow you on LinkedIn, you are often posting some great content there, great thinking things to get people thinking about AI, which I would encourage people to go follow Josh there as
Thank
well.
you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Well, Josh, we like to make sure we wrap up kind of with just a summary of what we talked about. So, Josh Cavalier, what is your final take?
Yep. My final take is get out there and, just like video, hitting the record button, start using generative AI. It will have an impact in what you do day in and day out. But don't be afraid. Just jump on in and amplify your superpower. Figure out what you're really, really good at, and then how you can augment with AI.
Perfect. Well, Josh, as always, it is a pleasure to talk with you and learn from you. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this revisited episode. It's a fascinating look back and to see how much has changed and really how much hasn't changed since 2023. As you reflect on this episode, think about how you're leveling up in your use of AI or other tools. Are there new ways you can integrate them into your daily life or work? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to reach out and share. We can reach us on social media or the Visual Lounge at TheVisualLounge@TechSmith.com if you want to email, if that's your thing. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, or follow the podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your support helps keep these conversations going and reaching more people. And with that, I'll leave you with this. I hope you take a little time to level up every single day. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.